Hey guys, Katie. So today I'm here with my African egg-eating snake omelet. The two videos I did with her did really well, so I decided to make another one. African egg-eating snakes make wonderful pet snakes. You sometimes do need to outweigh the pros and the cons, and because there isn't a lot of information out there about African egg-eating snakes, then you might not know what those pros and cons are. This video is here to help you. Let's first start with the pros. African egg-eating snakes don't have teeth. Can we just get that one out of the way? It's one of my favorite things about them is that they don't have teeth, and it really got me comfortable holding snakes. That way I could hold snakes with teeth a little bit more comfortably and a little less fearfully. If they do try to bite you, it's really them just gumming you. To kind of piggyback off that, they do not eat mice, which once again is another reason why I love them so much. Those are oftentimes the two reasons why moms and parents won't let you get a snake, is because they have teeth and they eat mice. Well, the African egg-eating snake is over too. The next pro is that they can live in groups. In my last video I said that they can live in groups, but they shouldn't necessarily. When I got a comment of someone that actually lives in Africa and corrected me, so thank you for that, and they said that whenever they found these African egg-eating snakes, they would be in groups. So you don't have to keep them in groups. She's not in a group. So this is something that is actually really cool, and most snakes can't live in groups, but they can. So if you want to own a group of snakes, you can, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. Egg-eating snakes are very forgiving animals, so you can pretty much keep them in groups or not keep them in groups, and they won't really care one way or the other. If you do keep them in groups, you need to keep them in a larger cage. I'd recommend a 20-gallon is like the minimum to start with for an egg-eating snake, and every time you add a new egg-eating snake, add 10 gallons to that. So if I were to get another egg-eating snake to keep with her, I would have to keep them in a 30-gallon. This is just going to keep them from biting, but it's just a good general rule of thumb. You have a hair on your lip. A hair on your lip. There we go. You're always getting yourself tied up in knots, you silly goose. Hi. The next pro is that they are very docile. As you can see, she's exploring, but she's not trying to get away. She's not super squirmy. And females more than males are this way. I've, in my experience, found that males are a little bit more squirmy and females are a little bit more chill and docile, but it all depends on the specific snake and age and gender and things like that. But on average, they can be very docile. They're really good if you are an animal educator to get, and you can take to shows, and people will not be afraid to hold them because they're not super squirmy, they don't have teeth, they don't eat mice. We've covered those before. The next thing is a pro in my opinion, but I feel like they live the perfect amount of time. They live around 10 to 15 years if you care for them properly, and if you get them from a captive breeder, they can live to be that long. And I feel like this is the perfect amount of time. It's not too long, it's not too short, and you get plenty of time with your snake, but it's not like a 30-year commitment like a properly kept ball python or something. Another pro is that they don't need terribly large cages. They will benefit from a larger cage, but they don't really need a huge 40-gallon enclosure. A general rule of thumb is that they should be able to stretch out their entire body around two sides of the enclosure, but preferably one side, the long side. You can always go bigger than this, but that's just the minimum. So for her, that is a 20-gallon, but I may or may not need to upgrade depending on how big she gets when she's older. The next pro is that they help people overcome their fear of snakes. I know this one girl that was mortified of snakes, and she was starting to warm up to them when she found out about little omelet here. Because a large reason of why people are afraid of snakes is because of their teeth. The next pro is that the way they eat is incredible. If you want to watch my egg-eating snake eating video, it will be up here and in the description box below, or you can just search it on my channel. But so if you want to know how they eat and watch her eat, it will be up here. The next pro is that they get a fairly good size. To give you an estimate, she might get a little bit bigger, but this is probably about how big she'll get as an adult. She's probably about full grown. So she very well could be full grown, but I feel like, I don't know, I just have a feeling she's got a little bit more growing to do. But a male will get much smaller than this. They will get about foot in length. Hi, sorry, I gotta correct this dumb face right there. It is not a foot in length, Katie. I was completely confusing it, and it is actually 1 meter, and that's what I had heard, but I accidentally said 1 foot, even though it's really like 2 to 3 feet, so I'm sorry, I'm dumb. They don't get a foot, they're much bigger than that. Whereas females get about 3 to 4 feet, and she's about 3 feet right now, so this could be her full size, or she could grow another foot. We'll have to see. The last pro is that they are adorable. I mean, you cannot deny the cuteness. They're so cute, and they're so sweet, and their personalities are adorable, and the way they eat is awesome, and I think that's a very big contributing factor as to why you should get one, so just my opinion. Now on to the cons. They themselves are very hard to find. I think there's like a couple of breeders that breed egg-eating snakes, and I found that they're always out of stock. There are some places like Underground Reptiles and back water reptiles that sell egg-eating snakes, but they have horrible reviews. They're a wholesaler breeder, so they mass produce them, and it's very, very dangerous, and you're probably gonna get a sick one or not even get the animal that you ordered. That's what some of the reviews were saying. I just really don't recommend getting one, especially for a snake as prone to disease as an African egg-eating snake. Next con, and this is one of the biggest ones, is that their food supply is very hard to find. She is on Coturnix quail eggs, which you can just get at your local Asian market, or I think you can get them off Amazon too. But babies will need finch eggs, and they're very, very hard to come by. You need to know the right people that are willing to give you their unfertilized finch eggs, and most of them just want to breed them into actual finches, so they don't want to really give you any eggs. So you can either breed your own, or you can find someone that breeds finch eggs and is willing to give them to you. So if you know the right people, it can be done. But the problem is a lot of people don't know the right people, and a lot of people wish to syringe feed their egg-eating snakes, but it's not natural for them. You can very, very, very easily asphyxiate them. You can not give them the proper amount, and you can make their bellies too full. So many things can go wrong, and it's not a good long-term solution. There are certain circumstances where this can be acceptable. Let's say that your egg-eating snake is underweight and they will not touch their eggs. Obviously, you need to figure out some way to get them to eat. But in most cases, especially if they're just young and just haven't gotten the hang of eating it, you just have to suck it up and let them figure out how to eat their eggs on their own. Adult males can sometimes eat button quail eggs, but once again, they're not super easy to find, so you need to breed your own button quail eggs or find a breeder that does. Some adult females can eat small chicken eggs, but don't get one with that assumption, because I'm not sure she'll ever be able to. If she is full grown right now, she definitely won't be able to eat small chicken eggs. And to kind of piggyback off of that, they can be picky eaters. I've had a lot of people tell me that their snake is not eating. It can be very, very tricky to get them to eat, especially if they're young babies, especially if they are males. She's a fairly good eater, but to kind of, again, piggyback off of that, egg-eating snakes will go off food for upwards of 6 months or so. This is completely normal. It's because in the wild, birds don't nest all year round, so they will not eat all year round. She recently was off food and then came back on it, and she lost a little bit of weight, then got the weight back on, and she's completely fine now. It's completely fine if your snake goes off food. Sometimes it can be because they're sick or they're gravid or whatever, but most of the time it's just because they're going off food because of breeding season issues. So just don't be alarmed if this happens to you. If it's been more than 6 months, I'd recommend maybe checking with your vet just to make sure everything's okay, or at that point would be one of the times you would maybe syringe feed. I recommend checking with your vet first just to make sure you don't accidentally harm it. Again, to piggyback off of that, how many times have I piggybacked off of a different con? A lot of vets don't specialize in egg-eating snakes. They're very similar to other snakes, so common problems like parasites or mites can probably be treated, but with their diet and them not eating, a lot of vets might not know how to handle that. When I went to the vet to take Saffron, they didn't know a lot of the facts I was telling them about egg-eating snakes, and it was a vet, and one of them was a vet that specialized in snakes. In fact, I showed them that egg-eating snake video, and they were really impressed, and they didn't know anything I was telling them. So that's something to be cautious of. So in that case, if you don't have a vet that specializes in egg-eating snakes, don't let that keep you from getting one, because their eating habits are something that is just gonna have to be up to you. You know them better than anyone, so if you feel like your egg-eating snake needs to be syringe fed, do that, but just do it safely. I feel like it's a really ridiculous mindset that people are set in, that a random person, they know everything about my snake and my care for my snake. I know my snake better than you. So if I feel like in the future or whatever, she won't eat and I need to syringe feed her, that is up to me, not up to you. And if the vet doesn't know how to care for her diet-wise, then I am the best person to go to. Okay, sorry, my camera battery died. So another con is that they are unfortunately very rarely bred in captivity. For example, she was wild caught, but don't worry, I got her from a store that I really trust, and I know that they quarantine their animals for multiple weeks before they actually sell them. And then on top of that, she was in a quarantine enclosure for the first few weeks that I had her. But because of this, sometimes when you get them, they can already be ridden with parasites, whether internal or even external. Sometimes you won't even notice it. Sometimes it could just be the eggs or the larva of, an external parasite, and that's why you won't see it right away. And then they'll hatch and you will find that they have mites a couple weeks later. They're just more prone to having some kind of disease when you get them if they are wild caught, but she never had any sort of illness. So it can be done, just make sure it's from a store that you trust. That's everything that I can think of, but there's probably more pros and cons, I'm sure. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments down below. Some people have DM'd me via Instagram, and you can do that if you want, or you can just leave it in the comments. I mean, doesn't matter. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Be sure to click the subscribe button down below and ring the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!